The galaxy was on the brink of total collapse. For years, a powerful alien race known as the Zephyrians had been systematically conquering planet after planet, using their advanced AI-driven technology and devastating warfare strategies. No one had been able to stop them. The Zephyrians had perfected the art of war, their machines and weapons far beyond anything humanity had ever seen. Their goal was clear: total dominance. And at the top of their list were the humans. Humanity had once been a rising force in the galaxy, but now they were on the edge of extinction. The Zephyrians had already wiped out entire human colonies, leaving behind nothing but ash and ruin. The Federation, an alliance of various planets formed to defend against threats like the Zephyrians, was completely powerless. No one had the resources, the weapons, or the strength to fight back. Every attempt to stop the Zephyrians had ended in failure, and now it seemed like the entire galaxy would fall under their control. On a dark day, the leaders of the Federation gathered in their war room. The mood was grim. Their communications had been silent for days, the enemy's forces having completely cut off any chance of reinforcements or communication. The last hope for a successful defense had been extinguished. The Federation's final stronghold was on the verge of collapse, and with it, the last hope for humanity's survival. The leaders sat in silence, each one knowing that soon their fate would be sealed. The Zephyrians had won. But just as the Federation's commanders were preparing to give up, something unexpected happened. A transmission came through, flickering on the screen in front of them. At first, they thought it was a mistake, or worse, a trap. But as the message was decrypted, it became clear it was real. A small team of humans, who had not been part of the previous battles, had somehow developed new advanced weapons and were now offering to help the Federation. The message was short, simple, and to the point. We have the technology. We're coming to help. Humanity is not finished yet. The Federation leaders exchanged confused glances. How was this possible? How could a small group of humans, who had been nowhere near the front lines, develop technology advanced enough to stand against the Zephyrians? The idea seemed ludicrous. The humans were far behind the Zephyrians in terms of technological development. They had no massive armies, no fleets of warships. How could a handful of soldiers with untested weapons change the course of this war? For a moment, there was silence in the room as the Federation commanders processed the news. Was this some sort of trick? A desperate move from a group of survivors trying to stay alive? Or was it something more? Could these humans actually have a chance against the Zephyrians? One of the commanders, Admiral Thorne, leaned forward and slammed his fist on the table. We have no choice. We can't just sit here and wait for the end. If these humans have something that can help us, we have to give them a chance. We don't have anything left to lose. The room was filled with a mixture of doubt and reluctant hope. The situation was dire, and yet they couldn't ignore this chance, however slim it might be. If there was even the slightest chance that these humans could make a difference, they had to take it. The Federation commanders quickly made the decision to accept the humans' offer. They would meet them, and together they would try to figure out how to stop the Zephyrians. But the doubt lingered. Was this a distraction? Were the humans simply trying to buy time, knowing that they had no real chance of success? Or did they truly possess something that could turn the tide? As the Federation began to prepare for the arrival of the human team, there was a growing sense of unease. Even if they had new weapons, would they be enough? The Zephyrians had wiped out entire fleets without breaking a sweat. How could a small group of humans make a difference against such an overwhelming force? Still, Admiral Thorne refused to let despair take over. We have to fight, he muttered to himself. If we don't, then we're already dead. We have to trust in them, no matter how impossible it seems. In the distance, the Federation's fleet prepared to meet the human team. Ships were being readied for the meeting, and the commanders scrambled to set up a defense plan in case things went wrong. But even as they did, a strange feeling hung in the air, one part hope, one part fear. if the humans failed, it wouldn't just be the end for them. It would be the end for everyone. The last flicker of hope for humanity, resting on the shoulders of a group of unknown soldiers, carrying with them weapons no one had seen before. And then, without warning, the first human ship entered Federation space. The Federation fleet watched in awe as the human ship appeared on their radar. It was cloaked, a strange and unfamiliar technology that the Federation had never seen before. The ship was silent, its movements smooth and calculated. The Zephyrians had their own cloaking technology, but this was different. The human ship wasn't just invisible, it was unpredictable, as if the very laws of physics were being bent in its wake. The Federation had no idea what they were dealing with, but one thing was clear: this was no ordinary team. The message had been received. The humans had arrived, and their weapons, whatever they were, would have to be enough. Suspense. As the Federation's fleet prepared for what would be their most important meeting yet, the Zephyrians, far away in their warships, had also taken notice. They were not stupid. They had been watching the Federation's communications. The arrival of the humans did not go unnoticed. The question now was simple: would the humans live up to their promise, or would they be wiped out as easily as the others? The Federation commanders watched with bated breath, knowing that this could either be the turning point they had been waiting for, or their final moment before the galaxy fell into complete darkness. The next few hours would decide everything. Would the humans be able to save them? Or was this just another false hope, a fleeting moment before the Zephyrians completed their conquest? The answer was coming soon. The galaxy's battlefield was silent in the moments before humanity's arrival. Across the Federation's warships, the commanders stood tense, eyes fixed on the radar screens, anticipating the unknown. The Zephyrians had long ruled the battlefield with their AI-driven war machines, their precision unmatched, their dominance unchallenged. For years, the Federation had struggled against their might with little hope of victory. But now, as the human team arrived, there was a sense of both dread and anticipation. The Federation had never seen humans fully equipped for war like this. They had only heard rumors and whispers of new technologies, of weapons that could tip the scales. But nothing could have prepared them for the sight that appeared on the radar as the human ships made their approach. The first thing that struck them was the cloak. The human fleet didn't just use advanced stealth technology. They had perfected it. Their ships, once visible on the radar, now disappeared completely, as if they were never there at all. The Federation had no idea how the humans managed to achieve such a feat, but one thing was clear: this was no ordinary weapon. The humans' cloaking technology was like nothing the Federation had ever seen. It bent the very fabric of space around them, making their ships seem to vanish into thin air. It wasn't just about hiding from enemy detection. It was about controlling space itself. The Zephyrians had never encountered anything like this. Their AI-based war machines, designed to predict and respond to threats in real time, were now facing an opponent they could not understand, let alone anticipate. But it wasn't just the cloaking technology that made the humans' arrival so terrifying. The true weapon they brought with them was even more powerful. The Federation had received word of the probability manipulator before the humans arrived, but no one truly understood its potential. This device was said to be capable of altering the very fabric of probability. It could change the likelihood of events, shifting the odds in favor of the humans, no matter how impossible the battle seemed. To the Zephyrians, it was a nightmare waiting to unfold. As the human fleet arrived at the battlefield, the alien commanders remained confident in their strength. Their AI-driven forces had never been defeated. They had wiped out entire planets, crushed resistance without mercy, and their advanced war machines were designed to adapt and counter anything thrown their way. The idea that a group of humans could have developed technology that could stand up to them seemed impossible. The Zephyrians believed that their AI would predict and neutralize any threat, as it had done countless times before. But this time, something was different. The human ships, with their advanced cloaking technology, slipped into the battlefield unnoticed. For a moment, the Zephyrians didn't even realize they had arrived. Then suddenly, the first strike came. From seemingly nowhere, a flash of energy erupted in space. One of the Zephyrian flagship shields began to flicker and fade. The alien forces, who had never anticipated an attack from an invisible enemy, scrambled to respond. But it was too late. The humans' first strike was a direct hit, disabling the flagship's power core and sending the massive ship into a spiral of chaos. The Zephyrian eye, usually so precise in its calculations, was thrown off balance, unable to adjust fast enough to counter the humans' unpredictable actions. The alien commanders watched in disbelief as their flagship faltered. The once mighty eye-driven army, which had seemed invincible, was now facing an opponent that couldn't be predicted, an enemy that didn't play by the rules. The probability manipulator was in play, and its effects were already being felt. The odds were shifting. The Zephyrians could no longer rely on their AI to guarantee them victory. The tide of the battle began to turn in the humans' favor. With each strike, their ships and weapons manipulated the very probabilities of success. The Zephyrian forces were disoriented, their once perfect strategies now crumbling in the face of this new human technology. The commanders on the Zephyrian side scrambled to adapt, but it seemed as though the odds were always shifting against them. One by one, the alien ships began to fall. The Federation watched in awe as the humans, with their newly developed technology, took control of the battlefield. It was as if the universe itself was bending to their will. The probability manipulator wasn't just altering the chances of victory. It was rewriting the very laws of war, allowing the humans to overcome the impossible. The Federation commanders, who had once believed that their fate was sealed, now saw a glimmer of hope. The Zephyrians, the seemingly unbeatable force that had crushed everything in its path, were now struggling to maintain control. The human fleet, once thought to be powerless, had become a beacon of defiance against the alien invaders. But for the Zephyrians, this was only the beginning of their nightmare. They had never faced an enemy like this, and they were beginning to realize that the humans were not the easy target they had expected. The probability manipulator had given the humans an edge they had never had before, and with it, they were now capable of challenging the might of the Zephyrians on their own terms. As the human ships moved deeper into the battlefield, the alien forces began to regroup. But even as they did, they couldn't shake the feeling that they had underestimated the humans. The AI that had once been their greatest strength was now failing them. It was no longer predicting the future. It was reacting to an unpredictable force. The Zephyrian commanders, who had always relied on their AI's calculations to win battles, now found themselves questioning everything. How had the humans achieved such power? How had they developed technology that was so far beyond anything the Zephyrians had ever seen? The answer, as it turned out, was the probability manipulator, and it was this device that had thrown the Zephyrians into chaos. As the battle raged on, the humans continued to press their advantage. The Zephyrians, despite their overwhelming numbers and superior firepower, were now forced to fight a battle they couldn't predict, couldn't control. Their AI systems, once flawless, were now making mistakes, and the probability manipulator ensured that every wrong move tilted the odds further in humanity's favor. The Federation watched in awe as the battle unfolded before their eyes. It was a battle like no other they had ever seen. The humans, once the underdogs, were now the ones dictating the flow of the war. Their technology had leveled the playing field, and the Zephyrians, for the first time in a long while, were feeling the sting of defeat. But even as the humans pressed on, their victory was far from certain. The Zephyrians were not easily defeated. They had faced many enemies before, and they had never given up without a fight. The battle was still far from over, and the outcome remained uncertain. The humans had gained the upper hand, but they still had to face the full force of the Zephyrian war machine. The real question now was, could the humans hold their ground long enough to secure a true victory, or would the Zephyrians recover and turn the tide once again? The battle had only just begun, But humanity's arrival had already changed the course of the war forever. As the battle raged on, the humans, with their advanced cloaking technology, were beginning to systematically dismantle the once invincible Zephyrian forces. The alien ships, known for their resilience and sophisticated AI systems, were now falling one by one. It was an almost surreal sight. Each time a Zephyrian vessel was disabled, it was as though the aliens' carefully constructed empire was being chipped away at, piece by piece. The human forces, once considered weak and underdeveloped, were now becoming the nightmare of the Zephyrians. The humans' cloaking technology allowed them to strike from the shadows, remaining completely undetected until it was too late. The Zephyrian warships, designed to detect even the smallest disturbances in space, couldn't pick up on the human fleet's movements. The cloaked ships moved silently through the battlefield, positioning themselves for the perfect attack. With a sudden burst of energy, they unleashed a series of devastating strikes. Alien vessels, once thought impenetrable, began to crumble under the force of human weaponry. The chaos in the battlefield was unlike anything the Zephyrians had ever experienced. Their once perfect strategies, those calculated by their advanced AI, were being completely disrupted. The humans' tactics were unpredictable and relentless. They didn't play by the rules, and that was something the Zephyrians hadn't anticipated. The alien commanders, who had grown used to their AI systems' precise and flawless predictions, found themselves scrambling to adapt to the sudden chaos. Every move they made was countered by the humans, and with each attack, the human forces gained more ground. But the true power of the human soldiers was still to be fully revealed. Each soldier was equipped with an AI-driven exosuit, a piece of technology designed to enhance human abilities far beyond the limits of normal strength and endurance. These suits weren't just advanced, they were revolutionary. The exosuits gave the soldiers superhuman strength, speed, and agility, allowing them to move with an intensity that shocked the alien forces. What had once been considered mere humans were now nearly as formidable as the AI-driven machines of the Zephyrians. Yet the most powerful feature of the exosuits wasn't the physical enhancement. The real secret lay in the adaptive shielding system. This advanced technology allowed the suits to adapt to virtually any form of attack. Whether it was energy blasts, physical strikes, or even the most advanced alien weaponry, the shields could adjust their frequency and resistance to absorb or deflect the blows. The Zephyrians, who had prided themselves on their energy-based weapons, found themselves at a severe disadvantage when the humans' adaptive shields absorbed their strongest attacks without even a scratch. Human soldiers, clad in their AI-powered exosuits, charged into the fray with incredible precision. Their movements were swift, fluid, and precise, as if they had become a part of the very battlefield itself. They worked together seamlessly, coordinating their strikes and using their advanced technology to create opportunities for each other. With every strike, alien ships were disabled, and alien soldiers on the ground found themselves overwhelmed by the sheer speed and power of the human warriors. The tide of battle was slowly but surely turning in humanity's favor. Suspense. As the battle progressed, the alien commanders began to realize something they had never considered before. Their AI systems were no longer under their control. The technology they had relied on for centuries was failing them. The once perfect systems that predicted every movement, every attack, were now wildly inaccurate. The human forces, with their unpredictable tactics and advanced weapons, had disrupted the core of the Zephyrian strategy. The Zephyrian AI, which had always been the backbone of their war machine, was now malfunctioning. The alien commanders could no longer trust the data they were receiving. Their weapons systems began to misfire, their battle plans became chaotic, and their communication channels started to break down. It was as though their entire war effort was disintegrating in front of them, piece by piece. This moment, this realization that their AI systems were no longer effective, marked a turning point in the war. The once invincible Zephyrians, who had crushed every enemy they encountered with precision and ruthless efficiency, were now fighting a battle they couldn't predict or control. They had underestimated the humans, and the consequences were becoming clear. The first sign of their failure came when an entire fleet of Zephyrian warships, once thought impervious, found themselves surrounded by cloaked human vessels. The aliens scrambled to reconfigure their AI to track the new threat, but it was too late. The human ships struck with deadly accuracy, taking out the energy cores of several key ships in one coordinated assault. The Zephyrian fleet, once a symbol of power, was now in disarray. Meanwhile, on the ground, the humans were pressing their advantage. The exo-suited soldiers, almost unstoppable in their power, tore through the alien defenses with ease, no matter what the Zephyrians threw at them. Be it energy weapons, heavy artillery, or their own specialized war machines, the humans adapted and overcame. The soldiers' adaptive shields rendered the alien weaponry ineffective, and their strength and speed allowed them to outmaneuver the aliens at every turn. The human strategy was clear: keep the Zephyrians off balance, use the element of surprise, and capitalize on the flaws in the alien AI systems. The humans didn't just fight to survive, they fought to win, and they were doing so with a level of ferocity and ingenuity that the Zephyrians had never imagined. The Zephyrians, for the first time in their history, were facing an opponent who didn't rely on predictable patterns or perfect calculations. The humans were free to take risks, to make bold moves, and to use their technology in ways that the aliens couldn't even begin to anticipate. The very unpredictability of the human forces was their greatest strength. As the battle reached its peak, the Zephyrians were beginning to lose control. Their commanders, once confident in their supremacy, were now struggling to make sense of the situation. Their once great AI systems had become more of a liability than an asset. The humans had not only matched their technology, but had developed strategies that completely nullified the Zephyrian advantage. The moment when the alien AI systems began to break down was the beginning of humanity's victory. The Zephyrians, unable to regroup or reorganize, were now in retreat. The humans, with their cloaking technology, AI-driven exosuits, and unpredictable tactics, had shifted the balance of power in their favor. The human strategy had worked. The once feared Zephyrian war machine was faltering, and humanity's chance at victory was becoming more and more certain with each passing moment. The battle wasn't over, but the tides had shifted. The Zephyrians had been forced into a corner, and they were starting to realize that their days of dominance in the galaxy were numbered. The humans had proven that, when given the right tools and the right strategy, they could challenge even the most powerful of foes. The Zephyrians had underestimated them, and now they would pay the price. The battle for the galaxy had only just begun, but one thing was clear: the humans had come to stay. And they weren't going down without a fight. The battle had reached a critical stage. Humanity's forces, with their advanced cloaking technology, AI-driven war machines, and unpredictable tactics, had managed to deal heavy blows to the Zephyrian fleet. But even with all of their success, one thing still stood in their way: the Zephyrian ultimate weapon. The human forces had a secret weapon of their own: the probability manipulator. This device, designed by humanity's best scientists and engineers, was a marvel of technology. Its purpose was to manipulate the very fabric of probability itself, altering the outcome of events in the humans' favor. It could ensure that every move made by the Zephyrians, every counterattack, would fail. No matter how hard the aliens tried, their plans would be thwarted, turning their strength into weakness and leaving them vulnerable to human strikes. When the probability manipulator was deployed on the battlefield, it immediately began to cause chaos in the Zephyrian ranks. Their AI systems, once flawless in predicting outcomes and movements, started to fail. What had once been a carefully calculated war strategy now crumbled under the weight of the probability manipulator. Alien attacks that would have been devastating were suddenly misfiring, their ships missing their targets by miles, and their defense systems malfunctioning at the worst possible moments. The aliens had underestimated the human ability to fight back. With their technology in disarray, the Zephyrians could no longer rely on their AI systems to guide them to victory. It was as if the universe itself was conspiring against them, and the humans were now in control of that fate. The tables had turned, and the momentum of the war was shifting in favor of humanity. However, the Zephyrians were not ready to give up just yet. They had one final weapon, an eye-controlled supermassive doomsday bomb, a weapon so powerful that it had the potential to destroy not just the human forces, but the entire galaxy. This bomb had been designed to be the ultimate deterrent, a weapon of mass destruction capable of wiping out any enemy in its path. Its sheer power was enough to make even the most confident of commanders hesitate. If the Zephyrians couldn't win through conventional means, this bomb was their last resort. When the bomb was launched, it felt as though the galaxy itself held its breath. The sheer magnitude of the weapon's power was enough to send a shiver down anyone's spine. If this bomb reached its target, it would mean the end of humanity's resistance and the destruction of countless worlds in the Federation. It was a weapon unlike any other, designed to bring the galaxy to its knees, and it was headed straight for the heart of humanity's forces. The odds were stacked against humanity. With the probability manipulator still in effect, the aliens' tactics had been rendered useless, but the bomb's power was something no technology or strategy could easily counter. The bomb's immense destructive potential couldn't be stopped by any conventional means. The human forces had no choice but to fight with everything they had. They were up against the most dangerous weapon ever created, and the clock was ticking. The human soldiers knew that time was running out. The bomb was heading toward its target, and with each passing second, the chances of stopping it grew slimmer. But they also knew that if the bomb detonated, it would mean the end of everything they had fought for. There was no time to waste. The humans had to act, and they had to act fast. In the midst of the chaos, one human soldier, Bonner, stepped forward. Bonner was a seasoned soldier, one who had faced unimaginable dangers and survived countless battles. He was a man who had seen his comrades fall and had been in the thick of every major conflict. But even Bonner knew that this mission would be different. It was a suicide mission. He didn't hesitate for a second. Bonner volunteered to be the one to stop the bomb, knowing full well the risks involved. He was the one chosen to make the ultimate sacrifice, to risk everything to save the galaxy from total destruction. He was aware that there would be no second chances, no time to retreat. It was a mission that had no room for failure. Bonner was ready to give everything for the greater good. As Bonner boarded his ship, he could hear the distant roar of battle. His heart pounded in his chest, but his resolve was unwavering. The probability manipulator had given humanity the edge, but without disabling the bomb, all their progress would be for nothing. He had no illusions about what he had to do. This was the turning point in the war, and he would be the one to determine if humanity could survive, or if it would be wiped out by the Zephyrians' last weapon. With his ship cloaked and his path clear, Bonner navigated through the battlefield, his every move precise and calculated. The Zephyrians were distracted by the ongoing battle, their focus split between fighting off the human forces and ensuring that the bomb would reach its destination. Bonner knew that if he didn't act now, it would be too late. As he approached the superweapon, he saw the massive bomb hovering in the distance, surrounded by Zephyrian ships that were trying to protect it at all costs. Bonner knew he had to get closer, but the closer he got, the more dangerous it became. Zephyrian fighters were swooping in, trying to shoot him down, but Bonner's training and experience kept him calm under pressure. He dodged and weaved through the laser fire, his ship's cloaking device keeping him hidden for as long as possible. Finally, Bonner reached the bomb. He didn't have much time. The device was heavily guarded, and every second was a countdown to destruction. With a deep breath, Bonner activated the emergency override and began the process of disabling the bomb. But as he worked, a wave of alien fighters swooped in, and the odds of survival were rapidly decreasing. Suspense. In the final moments, Bonner managed to disable the bomb, but not before taking a direct hit from an enemy fighter. His ship exploded in a blaze of fire, and Bonner's life was lost in an instant. The galaxy would be forever changed because of his sacrifice. Bonner's death was not in vain. His heroic act prevented the destruction of countless worlds, and his bravery ensured that humanity's resistance would survive to fight another day. The turning point had come, and it was Bonner's sacrifice that made all the difference. The war was far from over, but humanity had proven that it would not go down without a fight. The tide of battle had shifted. The Zephyrians had lost their ultimate weapon, and the human forces, though mourning the loss of one of their bravest soldiers, were now closer than ever to victory. The probability manipulator had tipped the scales in their favor, and with Bonner's sacrifice, they had proven that they were willing to do whatever it took to save their world. The battle was far from over, but humanity had found its strength in the face of overwhelming odds. And with that, the Zephyrians were finally beginning to understand what true defeat felt like. The dust had barely settled after the heroic sacrifice of Bonner. His actions had prevented the Zephyrian superweapon from wiping out humanity and the galaxy. But the war was far from over. The human forces had lost many, and the scars of the battle would be felt for generations. However, with Bonner's sacrifice, humanity had proven something to the Zephyrians. They were not a species to be underestimated. Now, it was time for humanity to launch their final assault. The Zephyrian forces were reeling from the loss of their ultimate weapon and the destruction of their fleet, but they weren't finished yet. In their desperation, the aliens turned to their last remaining defense, eye-driven machines of unimaginable power. These machines were not like any regular soldiers. They were advanced creations, designed to fight without mercy, without hesitation, and without fear. They had been kept in reserve, hidden from humanity's view, waiting for the right moment to be unleashed. This moment had come. As the battlefield turned into a war zone of chaos and destruction, the Zephyrians released their AI machines, hoping they would be the key to turning the tide of the war. These machines were massive, equipped with the most advanced weapons and armor the galaxy had ever seen. They were designed to withstand anything humanity could throw at them, and to fight with the precision and ruthlessness only AI could provide. But what the Zephyrians didn't know was that humanity had prepared for this. The human forces had their own secret weapon, one that was far more powerful than anything the aliens could have imagined: the quantum disruptor. This was a device capable of interfering with the quantum structure of any machine, disabling it on a molecular level. The quantum disruptor was a game changer, and humanity's engineers had been working on it in secret for months. The moment the AI-driven machines hit the battlefield, humanity activated the quantum disruptor. The effects were immediate. The machines, once powerful and unstoppable, began to malfunction. Their movements became erratic. The once synchronized attacks of the alien machines turned into disorganized chaos. The quantum disruptor's effects were working, and the AI machines were falling apart before the Zephyrians could even react. The sight of the once feared AI machines being reduced to nothing more than malfunctioning heaps of metal and circuitry was a blow to the Zephyrian forces' morale. They had relied on these machines as their final hope, but now they were crumbling, and with them, the Zephyrians' last chance of victory. As the battle raged on, the human forces pushed forward, their advanced war machines cutting down the remaining alien ships and forces. The tide had completely turned in humanity's favor. The probability manipulator had done its job in weakening the alien strategies, and the quantum disruptor had dismantled their last line of defense. The Zephyrians, once so confident in their superiority, were now in full retreat. Every move the aliens made seemed to backfire. Their best warriors fell to human soldiers, their ships were torn apart by human weaponry, and their command systems were overwhelmed by the relentless attacks. It was a sight to behold. The human forces, who had once been seen as nothing more than an afterthought, now stood as the undisputed power in the galaxy. And yet there was still one final push to be made. The alien leaders, though weakened and disorganized, were not ready to surrender just yet. They had one last trick up their sleeves, a final assault meant to delay humanity's victory for as long as possible. It was a desperate move, a last-ditch effort to hold on to what little power they had left. But humanity was ready. The final battle was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The human forces, with their advanced cloaking devices, AI-driven machines, and powerful quantum weapons, fought with everything they had left. The Zephyrians, despite their losses, were determined to make a stand, to prove that they were not ready to give up their dominance just yet. But in the end, it was clear that the Zephyrians had been defeated. The human forces pushed through, cutting down the last of the alien ships and wiping out the remaining pockets of resistance. The battle was over, and humanity had emerged victorious. The Federation, once skeptical of humanity's abilities, now saw them in a new light. The human forces had proven themselves not only as survivors, but as conquerors. The Federation leaders, who had once viewed humanity as weak and insignificant, now looked at them with newfound respect. They had fought back against overwhelming odds, taken down the most advanced alien fleet in the galaxy, and claimed victory. In the aftermath of the battle, as the dust settled and the final remnants of the alien forces were defeated, a message was sent across the galaxy, not from the Federation, but from humanity. It was simple, direct, and unyielding. We are now the new rulers of the galaxy. The message was heard by all, across the stars, across the planets, and across the galaxies. The once mighty Zephyrians were now a broken empire, their power shattered by the might of humanity. The galaxy, which had once been ruled by alien forces, was now under human control. Humanity had not only survived, they had thrived. The Federation leaders, who had once doubted humanity's place in the galaxy, were now faced with a new reality. The humans were the new dominant force. The Federation could no longer ignore humanity's power, nor could they pretend that the humans were anything less than a force to be reckoned with. The final assault had been won, and humanity had proven that they were no longer the underdogs in this galaxy. They had risen from the ashes of war and claimed their place as the new rulers of the stars. And as the galaxy looked on, there was no doubt left. Humanity had arrived, and they were here to stay. The battle was over. The galaxy, which had been torn apart by war and conflict, was finally at peace. Humanity had won, but the price of victory was steep. As the dust settled and the silence followed the roar of battle, the true weight of the war began to settle on the shoulders of the human soldiers. Bonner's sacrifice had been the turning point, the moment when the tide shifted in humanity's favor. His selfless act of bravery had prevented the Zephyrian doomsday bomb from wiping out humanity and the galaxy. But it had come at a high cost. Bonner's death, along with the loss of countless other soldiers, weighed heavily on the hearts of those who had fought alongside him. The soldiers, their comrades, and the families left behind all had to come to terms with the lives lost in the battle. The emotional toll was immense. Victory had been achieved, but the joy of it was tempered by the pain of those who had given their lives for it. The names of the fallen, Bonner, the brave soldiers, and the countless others who had made the ultimate sacrifice, would be etched into the memories of those who survived. In the quiet aftermath of the battle, there were no grand celebrations or joyous victories. Instead, there were moments of reflection. Humanity had proven its strength, its will to survive, and its determination to stand against all odds. But the cost of that victory was measured not in the destruction of enemy forces, but in the lives of those who would never return home. Humanity had won, yes, but they had done so at a price that would never be forgotten. Bonner, a hero among men, had been the symbol of that sacrifice. His final moments, the courage he displayed in disabling the alien superweapon at the cost of his life, had inspired every soldier and civilian alike. It was not just a military victory. It was a victory of spirit, of resilience, of the indomitable human will. For the humans who had fought in the war, the aftermath brought a mixture of emotions. There was relief, of course, that the war was finally over, that they had survived and emerged victorious. But there was also grief. Grief for the soldiers who would never come home, for the families torn apart by the loss of loved ones, and for the countless innocent lives lost during the conflict. The war had been brutal, and the scars of it would remain long after the last shot had been fired. As humanity began to rebuild, there was a sense of unity, a realization that they had become something more than just a group of people scattered across a planet. They had become a force to be reckoned with, a united front in the galaxy. They had fought not just for their survival, but for the survival of all those who would follow. And in that, there was a sense of purpose and determination. The victory was not just a military triumph. It was a testament to humanity's resilience and strength. It proved that no matter how impossible the odds seemed, no matter how powerful the enemy, humanity would never back down. The war had shown that humanity was capable of anything, that they had the ingenuity, the courage, and the heart to stand against the greatest threats in the galaxy. The galaxy, which had once been dominated by powerful alien forces, was now forever changed. The Zephyrian Empire had crumbled, its leaders either destroyed or in hiding. The once feared aliens, who had thought themselves invincible, were now reeling from their loss. Their supremacy had been shattered, their power broken, and they were left to pick up the pieces of their shattered empire. In the aftermath of the war, the alien species that had once looked down on humanity now had to come to terms with the reality of their defeat. They had underestimated humanity, believing that their advanced technology and AI-driven forces would be enough to crush the human race. But they had learned a painful lesson. Humanity was not to be underestimated. The Federation, once skeptical of humanity's place in the galaxy, now had to accept that they had a new player on the field. The humans, who had once been seen as weak and insignificant, had proven themselves to be a formidable force, capable of defeating even the most powerful alien empires. And with that newfound respect came new responsibilities. The humans, having emerged victorious, now faced the task of rebuilding not just their own world, but the galaxy itself. They had to rebuild the systems that had been destroyed during the war, help the refugees who had been displaced, and restore the peace that had been lost. But it was clear that humanity had changed. They were no longer just a species fighting for survival. They were now the rulers of the galaxy, tasked with shaping its future. The Federation leaders, who had once seen humanity as nothing more than a nuisance, now found themselves in a position where they had to listen to humans. The galaxy had changed, and humanity's place in it had been firmly established. No longer the underdog, humanity was now at the forefront of galactic politics, and their influence would be felt for years to come. For the first time, the humans had the upper hand. Their victory had sent a message across the galaxy. Never again would they be seen as weak or insignificant. The galaxy had learned a harsh lesson, and the name humanity would forever be associated with strength, courage, and resilience. The aftermath of the war also brought a change in the relationship between humanity and the other species in the galaxy. The aliens, who had once viewed humans with disdain, now saw them as equals, or in some cases, superiors. The balance of power had shifted, and humanity had proven that they were a force to be reckoned with. And yet, despite the overwhelming victory, humanity remained humble. The survivors of the war knew that their victory had come at a great cost. They understood the sacrifices made, the lives lost, and the families torn apart. They knew that while they had won the war, the true battle was just beginning. The rebuilding process would take time, and the scars of the war would remain long after the last of the alien forces had been driven out. But one thing was clear: humanity had proven its place in the galaxy. They had emerged from the ashes of war stronger than ever, and the universe would never forget the lesson they had learned. Never underestimate humanity.